These American people war against one another. This dog-eat-dog, the mighty are seeking to crush the weak. This dog-eat-dog, rich are going against the poor, whites against blacks against Latinos, Asians against whomever, Republicans against Democrats. A dog-eat-dog, all in the same house. This is our house with multiple rooms. The question becomes, will I come out of my room and come into your room and say, hey, tell me about your life and what it means to be in this house and to grow up in this house. That you would come into my room and sit and ask, Philip, what is it like to grow up in this house? What is it like to be a black man in this house? What is it like to be a Latino woman in this house? What is it like to be a white man or a white woman in this house? This place that we call America. So in 2007, me and my family moved here out of the military. 12 years ago, April 4th. Isn't that today? Yes. I resigned my commission as a captain of the United States Army. 12 years ago today, we moved to Arkansas, Conway, big city boy. Not small towns, not the South. Big city. California, where I was born and raised. All right. So we moved here and we started a nonprofit called the City of Hope Outreach, and our mission is to provoke hope in individuals, families, and communities over time for the glory of God. Our mission is to provoke hope in people. And so socially, how do we provoke hope? What is our practices? That we firmly believe that we're going to bring people together. That regardless of what you look like, regardless of who you may be married to or who you date or how you vote, all of that is irrelevant when you step on the grounds of Coho. I don't care. What I care about is, do you see one another as a human being? Because that is what we're lacking today. That we have lost sight of the fact that we are human beings first. We're not our political ideologies first. We're not our ethnicities first. We are human beings first. And if you listen to everybody, if you take a moment to listen and to be still, that you can, when you can hear beyond the noise, you can hear that people want to be recognized as human beings. People look at me sideways and I say, President Donald Trump is a human being and deserves the respect of being a human being. Yes, he pops off at the mouth. Yes, the stuff he says is ridiculous and borderline immoral, but at the end of the day, in the beginning of the day, he is a human being, just like Trayvon Martin is a human being. Michael Brown is a human being. The men and women and children who are coming across the southern border, they are human beings. Even the men and women in Charlottesville are human beings. What do we do with that? Because I'd rather get on social media and law bones on it, right? I'd rather stand behind and with my social media courage, say these things about them. But if I sat with you face to face, wouldn't we have that discussion? Or would I simply ask you, who are you? So at the City of Hope Outreach through education, housing, and community development, we do some very hard work at bringing a very diverse group of people to the table to say, how can we do things together? And so we ask ourselves, not what we can do for the poor, but what can we do with the poor? And why this term with, and this goes to the second thing, is that we have this philosophy and understanding that because you are human beings, because you've been made in the image and likeness of God, of what is called the Imago Dei, that everybody has something to contribute. I have something to contribute in the form of education and knowing people who got resources. But there are people who live in these communities that we work with. They have information, skills, talents as well. Think about it. Who knows your apartment best? Who does? Who knows your apartment best? Who knows your house best? That's one of those like, get back. Who is that? Who knows it best? Who? You, right? So imagine if I were to come into your apartment or house, and I look around, I'm like, man, why do you still have a TV that's got a tube on the back? And you still have wallpaper on the walls, like flowered 1970s wallpaper. I know that because the house I moved in had that. And this was like the 2000s, right? And I said, you know what? This is what we're going to do. Heather, I'm just going to change it all, right? You just sit right there. I know what's best. I'm going to change it all. I'm going to act like what's that, colonialism? When I come into a different place and change the culture and patterns and everything without inviting you in so that we can do this together. So if we reject that idea of colonialism, why do we do it with the poor in America? And come in and say, hey, we know what's best for you. Instead of inviting them in. And so for instance, like Brian King back in 2014, Brian rode a motorcycle and carried a chihuahua. And he drank a lot. And Brian came to me one day and he said, Philip, I think we should have a garden. I said, okay. And Brian left. I've known Brian since we had started in 2007. So Brian came back and said, Philip, I think we're going to put the garden right here. I said, okay, right? He left. And then one day, 6 people showed up with a truck, Miss Barbara, retired Lieutenant Colonel Lou, and some other volunteers. And they said, hey, you know Brian? I said, yeah. Well, Brian said that he wanted a community garden. And he said that you could put it right here. I said, yeah. He said, well, Brian came to our church, St. Joseph, and he got all the resources together. And he said he wanted it here. Brian drove a motorcycle, carried a chihuahua, drank most of the time, had this idea for a coho garden. That one garden expanded to 4 different gardens throughout the city, was then expanded to a farmer's market in partnership with Baptist Health. That was the idea of one of those poor alcoholic people in the community who now, because of his idea, Brian's passed away. He passed away 2 years ago for a heart attack. That idea feeds so many persons in these communities now. Because he has something to bring to the table. But what about, not just socially, but at least politically as well? In order to address poverty, in order to address race, we all live in these dynamics: a social sphere, an economic sphere, a political sphere, and whatever you believe about life, religious, faith, transcendent. And in order to affect things that are going on with the poor, you have to engage with those who are your elected officials. So whether it's at the city level, the county level, the state, or the federal level, at some point you have to bring them in the midst of these environments so they can see firsthand what their policies are doing and what their policies are not doing. You have to bring them and show them, pull them through all the bureaucracy, and bring them down to show them, so this is how this food stamp program is working. And this is who it's affecting. This is your housing policies, and this is how it's affecting people. Your zoning, so on and so forth. They have to be shown how their votes and their policies are actually impacting people. The poor don't have lobbyists. Rich people got lobbyists. You can go down Little Rock right now, because session's in. There's a whole bunch of lobbyists down there trying to get their thing happening, right? Who are the lobbyists for the poor? So since most of the time you can't bring the poor down there, I'm going to bring the affluent people to the poor. And then let them hear. And then let them walk away. There was a song that says, now that I have seen, I am responsible. So when those men and women see the effects of their policies, they're responsible. Martha Nussbaum, she wrote a book called Capabilities Approach, and she said this, and I quote, politicians play a critical role in either creating barriers or tearing down barriers for the persons they represent. In essence, politicians have been granted the opportunities to address life, which is entrenched with social injustice and inequity. Close quote. How can we get our elected officials to pay attention to the barriers that they are creating, or pay attention to the barriers that are existing so that they can be torn down, so that the level of social injustice and inequality drops? So then leads to my question then, how are you engaging in this American place which is diverse and offers an opportunity to engage with its political leaders? We are in a special place, this American place, where we can go and talk to our elected leaders about what's going on in our lives or in the lives of other people. We have the opportunity to leverage this representative democracy, either by phone or text, or you just go down to the office, like, hey, I need to talk. I need to show you something. And most times if you ask, they might surprise you. They may come with you. I have yet to have one that said no. From Congressman French Hill all the way down to the city council person. They will come and see. You just got to do the hard work of getting them there. And that is important. So, as I conclude, we'll take some questions. So the question becomes this. Where do we go from here as American people in the 21st century? W.E.B. Du Bois posed for the 20th century, looking at goodness, beauty, and truth. But what about us for the 21st century? What are the good, beautiful, and true practices we can implement to secure human flourishing or peace for more people? The poverty rate in the United States is 13%. The poverty rate for the state of Arkansas is 18%. The poverty rate for here in Faulkner County is 17%. The number of homeless in Faulkner County is 941. 2,000 veterans are homeless. The big old debate about the private option in healthcare going on right now down at the Capitol. What are the practices that we need to initiate in the 21st century here in Arkansas in order to increase the human flourishing of men and women? What is it that we need to do socially? What is it that we need to do politically? So to answer this final question, I want to turn to Dr. Martin Luther King. So providentially, W.E.B. Du Bois died August 27, 1963 in Ghana. And on August 28, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King stood up in Washington, D.C. and gave his I Have a Dream speech. It was almost like a passing of the baton of one gigantic black male leader passing the baton to the next one. One who had a prophetic vision for the souls of black folks in his talented 10th, and that blacks would be successful in this American system, now being passed to an Atlanta preacher who had a dream. August 27th, August 28th, 1963. And in Dr. King's final book, Chaos or Community, to which I'm referring. The first is this: we must practice living as a healthy family in this American house. We have to practice living as a family. A family is diverse. A family has different personalities. A family has its good ones, and it's like, oh my gosh, you're embarrassing. Right? But we need to practice being a family. We're a family of human beings. Think about that. We are a family of human beings. As you walk on this campus, it's not UCA students first. It's not whatever the degree you're majoring in first. It's not whatever other organization you may belong to first. The first thing is that you are human beings, a family. And families should support one another. Families should fight for one another. The strong should advocate for the weak. So regardless of our distinctions, we exist as a family within a house that is called Arkansas and a larger house called America, a family that should practice celebration. We should practice lament when things go wrong. And we should practice encouraging one another. So when you see the person who is ethnically different than you, encourage him or her. When you see the person who is politically different than you, encourage him or her. I didn't say you have to agree with them, but you can encourage them. Why? Because you are a human being, and guess what? All of us at some point desire encouragement. Am I correct? Secondly, we must practice good actions which are for the uplift of the individual and the greater society. So what are the good actions that serve others? I believe there are many of you who possess great ideas to transform whatever your political leaning is. There are men, women, and children in our state who need bold social and political action, which will offer them the opportunity to flourish as human beings. The economic situation of many in Arkansas reveals that they have an impotency, an inability to access greater opportunities. And Dr. King said this, and I quote, "If democracy is to have breadth of meaning, it is necessary to adjust this inequity. It is time we stand in the warmth of our new morning and create new opportunities to improve the economic situation of the disadvantaged. Therefore, I would ask you to shine like the sun. Shine like the sun. Do good actions. Shine in such a way that the people who are closed up would be like a flower that opens up on a spring day, because you are doing good actions, and in doing so, they have a greater opportunity to participate socially and politically in this American household." So finally, in the 21st century, we can practice compassion by engaging socially with others. So our state has some relational tensions that need to be addressed as it relates to race. While you can't control how one is born ethnically or how you were born, what you can control is how you view them as an individual and as a group. You can control that. And the best way to diminish stereotypes, the best way to cultivate compassion, is being in relationship with somebody. Ask yourself, how many persons other that don't look like you do you know and have deep relationships with? How many persons do you have relationships with who do not look like you ethnically? Cultivate those relationships. I'm not asking you to go downstairs right now and be all weird and be like, hey. But if you have some natural relationship that's formed in class or outside of here, extend yourself in order that you would be compassionate. Because that very word compassion is where we get, this comes from the word to suffer with. What will it look like when we come out of our rooms in this household and begin to suffer with others? Dr. King stated it this way: there is some good in the worst of us, and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. And he went on to say, God is not concerned about white supremacy. He's not concerned about black supremacy. He's not concerned about Latino supremacy, Democratic supremacy, Republican, Libertarian, even American supremacy. What God is concerned about is that we would create a brother and a sisterhood that supports and encourages one another. And what he said is the beloved community. And so let's practice goodness, beauty, and truth. Let's practice being a family. Let's practice doing good actions. And let's practice compassion. Because that's the way forward in the 21st century. And in doing so, just as W.E.B. Du Bois said, those are the things that will be noble and true and will stem the tide of grief in anything that dehumanizes men and women. So thank you.